The war in Ukraine has become a graveyard for tanks. Hundreds of armored legends have been reduced to burned steel wrecks, whether they are NATO-made or not. Ukraine, as the second-largest land army in Europe, is receiving massive amounts of NATO equipment in an attempt to defend against the Russian offensive. Modern warfare has introduced entirely new ways to fight armored units, from combat drones and precision-guided artillery shells to electronic warfare systems, resulting in the destruction of a huge number of armored vehicles. The current heavy losses, which we will detail in this video, clearly show how exhausted the Ukrainian forces are and why they can no longer launch serious offensives. It also shows how effective NATO weapons delivered to Ukraine really are. Deliveries have peaked, and today NATO equipment accounts for over 30% of the Ukrainian army. Western weapons have mainly served as quantitative reinforcement for weakened capacities, because even the most modern tanks and armored vehicles perform very similarly to older Soviet models. The reason is simple. Neither NATO nor Ukraine have developed effective systems to protect against Russian artillery and drone attacks carried out by advanced Russian units equipped with kamikaze drones like the Rubikon. This is best illustrated by the American Abrams tank, a legendary armored vehicle from the Gulf Wars and a point of pride for the U.S. Army. Ukraine received 31 M1SA Abrams tanks, hoping they would help in key defensive and offensive operations. However, from their deployment in January 2024 to July 2025, 19 tanks were destroyed and 5 captured. The remaining 7 tanks were repeatedly damaged and abandoned. Of all operational Abrams, only 4 remain functional, meaning 87% have been lost or disabled. The heaviest losses occurred when Ukrainian elite units attempted to repel the Russian offensive near Avdiivka, and during the failed Ukrainian incursion into Kursk, where several Abrams tanks were captured. As a result, Australia had to send an additional 49 tanks to replace the losses. This is not propaganda. It's facts and analysis. If you value that, subscribe. It helps the most to keep such video analyses coming. The Abrams isn't the only one to suffer catastrophically. The German Leopard 2 has faced a similar situation, with over 100 units delivered in 2023. Ukraine's summer offensive that year ended disastrously, and many Leopard 2 tanks were destroyed or abandoned, as confirmed by footage from Mala Tokmachka that went viral worldwide. The biggest defeat occurred near the village of Pobeda during fighting for the Marinka-Vuhledar highway, when 5 Leopard 2A4 tanks were destroyed. Today, the Leopard 2 is used to defend the city of Pokrovsk, which is partially encircled. In total, 39 were destroyed, 4 captured, and 11 damaged or abandoned, meaning half of all Leopard tanks are out of action. Ukraine's most numerous tank, the T-64, has been used on all fronts since the war began and forms the backbone of Ukrainian armored forces, with about 1,298 vehicles before the war. So far, 560 have been destroyed and 40 captured, a loss rate of around 45%. Western tanks were supplied specifically to compensate for these catastrophic losses. The most widespread infantry fighting vehicle, the BMP-1, is possessed by Ukraine in over 1,000 units, plus an additional 150 vehicles supplied by Eastern European NATO countries. However, 624 have been destroyed and 79 captured, totaling 703 lost vehicles, more than 60% of all BMP-1s. The highest loss rate after Abrams is the American M2 Bradley, which was heavily used during the failed Zaporizhia summer offensive and subsequent battles in Kursk and Donetsk. Of around 300 delivered vehicles, 153 were destroyed, 21 captured, and 35 abandoned or damaged, over 60% total losses. Overall, it's clear that regardless of quality, armor, or firepower, every armored vehicle in Ukraine burns the same, whether an old Soviet tank or a modern NATO marvel. All vehicles are equally vulnerable to kamikaze drones and precision artillery, while the massive use of reconnaissance drones allows the Russian army to destroy even the most modern tanks. The advantages of advanced sensors and thermal imaging on modern tanks are meaningless when every anti-tank unit has cheap commercial drones that detect every movement from above and enable precise strikes. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe to the channel.